Welcome everybody to Marina circuit for Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East, the second day of activities here at the track as we get ready for the cars to head out for a 30-minute qualifying session, and this will decide the grid for the second and final race here this weekend. Round 4 of the series. We started in November in Bahrain, raced in Qatar before Christmas, and in a week ago we were in the Dubai Autodrome. But here in Marina, getting ready for the 8th qualifying session of the season. So temperature, as you can feel if you are at the track, a balmy 20 degrees, so nothing to worry about in terms of excessive heat, either in the air or in the track. But as the day warms up, then those air temperatures will rise, but the track temperatures will rise faster. So conditions in the race will probably be a little closer to how they were in qualifying yesterday. Qualifying yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:30 in the afternoon, but we'll race at 11 o'clock this morning. And so the track will be a degree warmer by that stage. So the system is very straightforward. Pit lane is open for 30 minutes until the checkered flag flies. And at any stage during that time, you can go out for as many or as few laps as you desire. Now, the slight codicil there is that you will need to make sure that you are getting the best out of your tyres, probably as quickly as possible, as early in the run, because the brand new Michelin Slick will have a couple of laps, possibly even 3, with that new tyre edge that gives that extra little bit of performance. And beyond that, then you are really in free practice mode. Although we did see yesterday a couple of drivers setting their best laps on maybe lap 4 or 5, and in one case even lap 6 of their runs. But that is unusual rather than the norm. So our cars are getting ready to head out. And the mechanics will have worked with the drivers after yesterday's race to try and ensure that any setup changes they needed have been made. So after free practice, qualifying, and the first race, then the drivers may well have a slightly different feel for the car, a slightly different list of wants and desires for things that they would like their car to do. And the mechanics will do their very best to make changes to the car to try and affect that. So yesterday's race, a resounding success for 7x7 Racing, with Robert De Haan and his teammate Taichi Watarai starting on the front row of the grid, and both of them leading actually at different stages during the race. Watarai taking the lead early on, and Robert De Haan retaking that advantage about a third of the way through the race. His attacks actually only interrupted by a brief safety car period, and once he was in front, able to ease away from his teammate. So De Haan taking the win yesterday, and Watarai second position. So Watarai back on the podium after disappointments in Dubai. Cars heading out, and as yesterday, it is Cristrandero, car number 10, who is the first to queue up at pit exit. And we have under a minute until the pit lane exit opens, till the red lights go green. And in the pit lane, as on the roads anywhere around Abu Dhabi, if the light is red, you do not go through it. So Cristrandero heads out, followed by car number 74, the grey machine of Nikola Petrovic, and Rawad Saradin. Rawad, the Lebanese driver. Saad Al Saud heading out as well. And he's followed by Max Muchlechner. Cedric Chassang has already left the pit lane. And the second white and green Saudi racing car also heads out on track, Khaled Al Ahmadi. With the bright yellow and red of DHL, this is Caleb Sumich. Caleb, a winner in Qatar and in race 2 in Dubai. So we've had 4 different race winners so far this season. Taichi Watarai with 3 wins, 1 yesterday for Robert De Haan, 2 for Caleb Sumich, and 1 victory for James Wallace. James Wallace was here in Abu Dhabi, but unable to drive yesterday, feeling really very ill, and unfortunately it looks as though he may not be out again today. So with a brand new tyre on the car, it's important to try and run it through a heat cycle relatively gently. And then that gives the opportunity for the tyre to produce grip over a slightly longer and more successful life. Like most things, if you go at it too hard early on, then the tyre does not reward you for that. So more cars heading out of the pit lane, and at this stage, first drivers coming round, potentially to start flying laps. Cristo Andero going out early, you tend to anticipate that you are going to meet other traffic. So he's going to have to be aware of that. Marshals will use the blue flags to alert slower cars the fact that there is somebody quickly coming up behind them. Cristo Andero yesterday went out very early, and he was the first man to set flying laps. Actually was the top of the pile for quite a long while. And now it seems everybody bar one out of the pit lane. We have somebody still in the garage, but at the moment almost everybody out ready to start their qualifying. Why have they all come out at the beginning of the session? Because the track is cooler than it will be later, and a cooler surface tends to give you a little bit more grip. Caleb Sumich, his first flying lap, unfortunately falling foul of track limits, so this one will not be counting towards his position on the grid. Everybody else though with good laps running at the moment. Saad Al Saud, purple second sector of the lap, car number 3, the white and green Saudi racing machine, and his teammate in car number 23, Khaled Al Ahmadi, purple in sector 1, quicker than anybody has gone, quicker than Saud, and only a tenth behind him in sector 2. Max Much-Lechner now looking a little quicker as well. But the first flying lap posted by Cristo Andero as yesterday, and a 2 minute 0.539, and actually that's quicker than Saad Al Saud managed, which was a 2 minute 0.756. Caleb Sumich coming towards the end of his lap, but he has already exceeded track limits and comes into the pit lane. So Sumich back into the pit lane, going very slowly down the pit straight. For those who are watching, is Josh Perry, the teenager. And our final cars have left the garage. Mark J. Thomas and Robert De Haan. Robert De Haan, car number 66. The bright pink and black machine, yesterday's race winner. Cameras picking up Taichi Watarai ahead of Cristo Andero. Andero on another flying lap. Max Much-Lechner, Khaled Al Ahmadi, both quicker than Andero at the moment. Andero the fastest of the Masters drivers. We have 3 different categories in Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East. Pro, in which there are 8 drivers. Pro-Am, in which there this weekend is just Cedric Chassang. and we have 5 drivers in the Masters category. So Max Muchlechner, the fastest driver, his second lap being disallowed for track limits. 1:57.805 is the current fastest lap, and Khaled Al Ahmadi goes better than that. In fact, he does a 1:58.181, but that's Max Muchlechner's lap being removed, so he drops back down. So 1:58.1 is the current fastest lap, and Al Ahmadi, car number 23, on a purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Teammate Saad Al Saud comes across the line, 1:57.251 to go fastest. Chris Randero still third quickest and the best of the Masters drivers. Randero now on what looks like a third flying lap, certainly going quick enough to stay out of everybody's reach. Saad Al Saud at the top of the pile, and Khaled Al Ahmadi, yesterday's third place driver, goes quicker again into the 56s, 1:56.7, so half a second quicker than Saad Al Saud. First flying lap in from Robert De Haan, a 1:56.9, so he is a quarter of a second off pole at the moment. Saad Al Saud third from Cedric Chassang and Lebanese driver Rawad Sariaddin. Chris Randero is in 6th ahead of Peter Brecker. So Rawad Sariaddin is the best of the Masters drivers. Yellow flags at turn 4. Not seeing why on the tracker. Everybody seems to be moving. If you're down at turn 4, give us a little wave and let us know why. In the pit lane, Caleb Sumich, Josh Berry, Alexander Vateva and Max Muchlechner. Running out quite wide there, Taichi Watarai. Watarai was on a better lap. Green first sector, his personal best. A purple second sector, better than anyone else. And so as he comes around the final 2 corners, heading to the line, with Saad Al Saud ahead of him. It should be a better lap for Taichi Watarai. And he goes up to 6th position. No improvement for, there was an improvement for Saad Al Saud, but not an improvement in time. So Khaled Al Ahmadi fastest, but on a slower lap this time. And in fact, I think he didn't just jump into the pit lane. Cedric Chassang did. Al Ahmadi. Interesting. Not a good sector 1, not a good sector 2, but a much better sector 3, and he does actually go quicker, 1:56.5. So Nikola Petrovic also into the pit lane. Robert De Haan with a better sector 1. The middle part of the lap, the really quick part of the lap, not as good as his previous lap. So it may be that De Haan has bailed on that lap. And a slew of drivers in the pit lane. 8 of our cars in the pits at the moment. Why are they in the pits? Because they went out on used tyres to get a feel for the car and for the track conditions, and now is the time, with 20 minutes remaining, that they've come into the pit lane to put on those fresh tyres. Now, that is not the work of a moment. This is not a Formula 1 22-man strong pit crew doing a 2-second tyre change. So the drivers will take a moment to have a little breather, and the crews will change the tyres as quickly as they can. There is a single centre lock wheel nut on these wheels, rather than the 4 or 5 that you would traditionally find on a road car holding the wheels on, and that allows for quicker changes. With a handful of mechanics per car, it is not the work of a moment. So it does mean that you need to come in relatively early in the session to have your tyres changed. Chris Randero comes in. Now, whether or not he goes back out remains to be seen. There are tyres ready, so we'll assume that even Andero is going back out again. Taichi Watarai has just set the fastest time of the session and is going quicker again. A 1:56.7 on his last lap. And he's the only man out on track, so he's got the entire Marina circuit as his personal playground right now. So Watarai, purple in the first sector of the lap. Tracker actually shows Peter Brecker is out. Yes, he is still out there as well. Peter Brecker also on, well, possibly on his way back in, actually, because his first sector was not a good one. But down at turn 9, here is Taichi Watarai. And the car is still going well, but not a great middle sector. But purple in sector 1 shows that he was doing something right. Is he on his way into the pit lane? We'll find out in a couple of corners as he sweeps left through 13 and 14. Cristian Andero heading back out. So I'm assuming Cristian Andero may not have taken 4 new tyres, possibly just new rear tyres. Peter Brecker following Taichi Watarai under the bridge and into corner 15. And Watarai is indeed in the pit lane, and I'd be amazed if Peter Brecker doesn't come in. He does. So our final 2 drivers heading back into the pit lane. Cristian Andero has already headed back out. So Peter Brecker's GT Sports crew set to work along with everybody else. The 7x7 team will be changing the tyres for Robert de Haan and also for Taichi Watarai. And lap 5 disallowed for car number 85, and that's Peter Brecker. Track limits at turn 5. That's the hairpin that leads onto the long back straight. And so Peter Brecker drops down the order a little. In fact, he doesn't. He remains second in the Masters category and 6th overall. Cristian Andero on an out lap, and he is being followed out at the moment by car number 37, which is our Lebanese driver, Rawad Sariaddin. And Sariaddin, the second fastest man when he came into the pit lane in the Masters category, although Peter Brecker did jump him on his last legal lap. And heading out as well is 74 Nikola Petrovic, so the Serbian driver, currently 4th in the Masters category. The car, that dark olive green sort of grey livery on it, Nikola Petrovic, Flana Racing driver. So at the moment, Taichi Watarai, Khaled Al Ahmadi, Robert de Haan and Saud Al Saud are the fastest 4 drivers, and they are all in the pro class. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next 4 pro drivers are all bunched together, 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th. That's Much Lechner ahead of Alexander Bateva, Josh Berry and Caleb Sumich. Sumich came in after maybe just 1 sighting lap. He's shown as having completed 2 laps, so that's actually an out lap, and came in at the end of lap 2, so didn't get a full flying lap in. Nor did Josh Berry, nor did Alexander Bateva. Max Much-Lechner did, but it was clearly not a quick one. Mark J. Thomas heading back out. So Rawad Sariaddin, Nikola Petrovic and Mark J. Thomas out on track. Well, with 3 cars out on track, almost everybody down in the pit lane. Let's catch up with Zara Faruqi and see what she's found out.
Thank you, Martin Haven, great to be in the pit lane. Tires are burning here and it's getting hot up here. So let's get a quick word about what's happening here. Every car is coming in for their second change of their tires. And let's jump to Paul Spooner, the team manager of Saudi Racing. Paul Spooner, if you are free to join me for a quick chat, I think we have to follow him there. He is in the zone, in the focus. Let's go and join him. Lots happening down at the pit lane. Great to see everyone here. The drivers getting ready for qualifying. It is important that they place high so the race goes smoothly for them. Paul Spooner, who's in the focus zone, how are you feeling about today's race?
About the race? Well, I'm more concerned about the qualifying. So let's get the qualifying right and then we'll do the race.
What is your goal with qualifying? Do you want them to push their tires, and what's the tire strategy when it comes to race? They're in the zone, they're going to go back out there, did their change of tires. So Paul Spooner sending their two drivers out there. Yesterday we had P3, Khalid Al-Hamadi, and now we have Saud Al-Saud, the second driver from Saudi Racing, to go out there. Great to have that. Now all the cars are going back out there. Brilliant to see all this action happening in Q2. Yesterday qualifying was interesting and so much more to come. So that's from my end. Martin, I'm going to give it back to you to continue the action of qualifying on the track. So Martin, we're going to throw back to you now.
All right, always a tricky time to try and catch up with team members and team managers when everything is happening. Paul Spooner clearly getting lots of chat on the radio there as well. So thank you for that, Zara. And now almost everybody heading back out on track. Pit lane emptying. And who have we got going relatively quickly? Well, we'll look to Krista Andero. He was the first man back out, and he is on a personal better lap. See Cedric Chassang in the white, orange and black of Team GP Elite. He's heading back out. Alexander Vateva heading back out. Coming back down towards them is Nikola Petrovic. In fact, Narod Saradien. Saradien, beggars pardon, is heading round on a quicker lap as well. So getting up to speed. Again, same applies as at the beginning of the session with a brand new tyre. You can see the drivers going at a gentle pace, but weaving gradually, trying to build some heat into the tyre. And that's that constant changing of direction, putting the load through the tyre that heats up the whole of the body of the tyre. So the carcass inside, the metal bindings and the body of the tyre, rather than just the outer surface that it runs on. So if you think of even a bicycle tyre, never mind an ordinary car tyre, what gives it its shape is the wiring inside, the structure, the carcass of the tyre, and on the very outside of it is what actually touches the roads. That's the tread of the tyre, same as on your road car. The difference being, of course, that these are slick tyres, which means there are no grooves cut into them to move water, because we don't use them when there is water on the track. There is a wet weather tyre for that, which has grooves in it to move the water, just like a road car tyre. And slick tyres are introduced because it puts more rubber on the road. There are no gaps in the surface, so you get better grip from the same size tyre. But it is important that you build the heat through the whole time. Drivers will use the brakes to do that as well. As the brakes get hot, they heat the wheel up, and that helps to heat the tyre itself. Because if you just go out there with a stone cold tyre and really try and drag the car around, then you will overheat the tread surface, and that will never be a good thing. You will start to lose grip, and that overheating, that blistering of the surface, a little bit like sunburn, never goes away. So this car's starting to build up to pace again. Taichi Watarai out of the pit lane. Now everybody is out. Watarai, Robert DeHaan, his teammate in the 7x17, and Cedric Chassang all out. Alexander Vateva, Caleb Sumich coming out as well. And so Cristandero showing the benefit of his fresher tyres. I think he only took rears, judging by how quickly he was turned around. He is 0.6 of a second off the fastest lap, and that's impressive stuff from the Masters driver. So Taichi Watarai still on top of the pile with the lap that he set on the older set of tyres, the first set of tyres. And judging by the fact that everybody really only put in a handful of flying laps, assuming that everybody went out at the beginning of this session on a previously used tyre, and keeping the new tyres to try and go quicker. Khaled Al Ahmadi, third fastest from Robert De Haan and Saud Al Saud. And at the moment, Mark J. Thomas actually on what looks like a flying lap. So is Max Much-Lechner. And Josh Berry has just set a moderate lap, 2 minutes 2. There'll be more to come from him. Watarai and Vateva, the yellow and black and the blue cars down at turn 9. Both still trying to weave some heat into the tyre. Now, have they got enough in the tyre? It looks as though, from the body language of the cars, Taichi Watarai and Alexander Vateva both about to start a flying lap. Looks like they were going pretty quickly through 10, 11, 12. And now to corner 14, up to 15. Still a little bit of weaving going on, so they might not be entirely convinced. And Cristandero looks like he has done what he needed to do, got the most out of himself and the car, and keeping the tyres alive for the rest of the race, or for this afternoon's race, this morning's race even. Taichi Watarai about to start a lap, but Max Much-Lechner, who was about a couple of minutes ahead of him, has set a new fastest lap, a 1:55.726. Fastest lap yesterday was a 1:53.3 in qualifying, and that was set by Robert De Haan. Max Much-Lechner did a 54.9, so his current 55.7 not as quick. Lap disallowed for Taichi Watarai, exceeding track limits at turn 4 out of 16. That's really frustratingly early in the lap to run out wide. Quite easy to do so here at Yas Marina. This is a very modern, up-to-date facility with particularly low type Formula 1 curbs. So very easy to run out wide. There's in this place is not a big curb to keep you on. Yellow flag at turn 4, so somebody else has run out wide there, or was there a half spinner? It's been withdrawn quickly. I think that was possibly Rawad Sariaddin. Coming across the line is our Pro-Am driver Cedric Chassang. Cedric's last lap, a 55.3. As Taichi Watarai comes across the line with a 54.4. And that being disallowed for Peter Brecker. Again, track limits at turn 4. And as we watch Watarai through corner 3, turn 4, just downhill here. And if you run out too wide over that red and white curbing, that is where you lose your time. Looked like that was a clean one for Watarai. Not too far behind him, Alexander Vateva. Vateva currently 4th quickest as Robert De Haan goes to the top of the pile. 1:53.7. So the first driver below 1:54. Caleb Sumich 1:54.2. Alexander Vateva 1:54.6. And that lap lost for Taichi Watarai from the top of the pile. Khaled Al Ahmadi had a much better lap going. Purple sector 1, green sector 2, and then sector 3 went away from him. And lap disallowed for Josh Berry, unfortunately. The teenager in 6th position. That drops him down a spot as Saud Al Saud improves. He moves up to 4th place. So it's Robert Hahn from Caleb Sumich, Alexandra Vateva ahead of Saud Al Saud and Khaled Al Ahmadi. Al Ahmadi not on a better lap, but Caleb Sumich is, and so is Alexandra Vateva. And is Taichi Watarai? Well, his first sector wasn't better, but sector 2 was. So does the Japanese driver improve on this one? As he comes across the line, he does. He goes 2nd quickest. Vateva improves as well in terms of time, but not in terms of position. So Robert de Haan completes another lap, and that is a quicker one, a 53.7. You can't get better than first, so he remains first. Caleb Sumich up to 2nd, deposes Watarai, and Alexander Vateva now down to 4th place. So Saud Al Saud and Khaled Al Ahmadi in 5th and 6th, ahead of Max Muchlechner and Cedric Chassang. Then Josh Berry in 9th, where he started yesterday. Chris Randero already in the pit lane, and very probably out of the car at this stage. He is the best of the Masters drivers. Mourad Saadien not looking like he's got a better lap going. Peter Brecker, Mark Thomas and Nikola Petrovic all look as though they have probably had the best of their tyres. And that might be the case for most. Most laps we're seeing at the moment are either not as good anywhere as their previous best, or not in 1 or 2 of the sectors. So Robert de Haan, Caleb Sumich, Taichi Watarai, Alexandra Vateva all improved on their previous lap, but none of them with a better 2nd sector. We're into the last minute and a half nearly of the session. And that rather suggests that almost everybody has had the best of their tyres. Mourad Saadien comes into the pit lane to join Krista Andero. There's Robert de Haan. He comes across the line with a 1:53.9, so 0.2 slower than his previous best. A minute and a little on the clock, and that will be it. The body language of the car very much. He is now cruising in top gear. May not actually be in top gear, but he is very much cruising. So off the pace now, Rob de Haan. Caleb Sumich. Actually, Sumich might be starting another lap. Green 1st sector, so the best that he has produced, and he's only a 1/4 of a second away. So Caleb Sumich, look out for him in the red and yellow DHL team car, although that green 1st sector now appears no longer to be green. I was surprised that he might have still some pace. Cedric Chassang may yet improve. He's gone green in sector 2, and that is a personal best. Cars coming across the line now with no improvement, and Robert de Haan definitely showing all the intentions from the language of the car. Same with Alexander Vateva of heading into the pit lane. Checkered flag will be out inside 10 seconds. So it is only these laps that are likely to count. Is there going to be an improvement from Cedric Chassang, currently in 8th place? Checkered flag is out, and Chassang might be the first man to take it. Number of cars heading into the pit lane. Saud Al Saud, Khaled Al Ahmadi, Max Muchlechner, all in the pit lane. Chassang has taken the checkered flag with no improvement. So almost everybody else had bailed out. of the qualifying session by that stage. And they won't take the checkered flag, they will head into the pit lane. So Robert de Haan in pit entry. So too behind him, Caleb Sumich. That's your top two. Alexandra Vateva was just ahead of them coming in. Taichi Watarai has now just come across the checker flag across the finish line. You can do that in the pit lane as well. So he was already in the pit lane. And so Josh Berry still out on track. Peter Brecker, Mark Thomas, Nikola Petrovic will all be heading back in shortly. The cars go into Parc Ferme. That means that outside parties are not allowed to touch them. Cars are not allowed to be fiddled with. So they will be checked over. Usually the top three. Yellow flag at turn 9. Interestingly. Well, it doesn't appear to be anybody stranded at turn 9. Everybody's on their way back in. So the final couple of cars heading in. Mark J. Thomas may well be about the last to come in. He and Nikola Petrovic were the last couple of cars out completing laps. Petrovic follows him into the pit lane. So the circuit will go silent again in just a moment. Qualifying completed. And that leaves Robert de Haan at the top of the pile with Caleb Sumich starting alongside him. Taichi Watarai will be on row 2 of the grid with Alexandra Vateva. James Wallace is not here today, unfortunately for him. So the entire weekend written off with illness. Row 3 of the grid will be all Saudi racing drivers. Saud Al Saud ahead of Khaled Al Ahmadi. Row 4 of the grid, Max Muchlechner and Cedric Chassang. And then Josh Berry ahead of Krista Andero, the top Masters qualifier. On row 6, Rawad Sariadin and Peter Brecker. And then on row 7, Mark J. Thomas and Nikola Petrovic. So that is how they finish in qualifying. Let's catch up with Zara Faruqi in the pit lane and see what she's got for us.
Thank you, Martin. Now I'm here with no other than our Pro-Am class, Cedric Chassang. How are you feeling about that qualifying out there today?
It's pretty similar to yesterday. Good pace, good progress as well, but all the drivers are improving as well. So we're in a similar spot as yesterday. We had a good race. We've managed to gain 1 position yesterday, so we'll try to do the same today.
And when it comes to the track, what have you learned about the track, and what are the challenges you face on the Yas Marina circuit?
I think it's a track that requires a lot of commitment and also a lot of precision. You can't really rest and lose the focus. So very challenging, even if it's quite a nice track to drive.
Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck for the race, and well done. Thank you for everyone at the drivers for the interviews, and also for Paul Spooner for a quick word from him earlier on. Now we can go back to Martin for a little bit more about what's coming up next.
Well, what's coming up next, thank you, Zara, is our final race of the weekend. So that will be at, checks notes, at 13:50. So we get underway at 1:50, but the pit lane will be open from 1:30 as the cars head out to the grid. So if you are looking to take part in the grid walk, that will be the time you need to be assembled in the pit lane by. And don't forget, if you want to find out a little bit more about the series, the drivers, the cars, the venues, and everything else, you can do that with the Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East socials, Carrera Cup ME, on the Insta, as the kids probably no longer say, and on X and Facebook as well. Lots and lots of information. And of course, if you follow the social media of the various different drivers and teams, there will be a plethora of other videos and content as well as the official Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East feed. So, cars are done. It is not all over for the drivers and the mechanics, though. The drivers will talk to their engineers, talk to their mechanics, and look for changes perhaps to be made to the cars. And you just saw the tall figure of Robert de Haan, one of our drivers in the pink and purple car number 66. There's his car, fastest man in qualifying, but also fulfilling the role that he came this weekend, or that he's come every weekend of the season to do, which is partly being a driver coach as well. Caleb Sumich in the yellow and red overalls, having a quick chat with him. Caleb will start on the outside of the front row of the grid. They have a win apiece, and I'm sure that they would both like to double that up. One of them can do, and the other obviously cannot, because only one of them can win the race. So we'll wait and see which one that might be. So cars heading back into the garages. They will be inspected by the scrutineers and checked over by the mechanics, fueled up, make sure that everything, cooling systems, oil and everything is topped up ready for the race itself. And then the drivers' changes, any that they require for the race, will be made. Of course, in qualifying, you're only doing a limited number of laps, and so they don't carry as much fuel in qualifying as they would do during the race. So a little bit more weight will go into the car in terms of fuel. And that is it for qualifying. Let's take a look at how it all played out. Qualifying for race 8 of the Porsche Carrera Cup Middle East. Early morning start here in the Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi, and getting onto it very early was car number 10, Krista Andero, the Masters drivers setting the early laps. Better grip from the same. So cars starting to build Watarai and Bateva, yellow and white. 4, and that being disallowed for that disallowed 23.9, so 2 tenths slower than was previous. Cars coming across the line are likely to count. Is there? That is it for our qualifying session. Don't forget, we'll be back with our live feed at 13:30, and that will give us the opportunity to see these cars in action for the final time here at Yas Marina.